Next, we have an editing submenu, and this menu is going to generally give us access to some options for editing these guides or replanting them on a surface, regrowing them completely, storing them, restoring them, and clearing any of that stored information. Now that I've told you, you kind of already know what all this stuff does, but I'm going to show you how you can actually use it too. The first one is points link, and it's a link field. So it's looking for an object to link to. But what does it actually do, and why do we want to link anything to this field here? When we're editing guides for hair, we have to go to the simulation menu and then choose the tool that we want to use to edit that. So under the hair tools, you have all these options. But what we don't have is a simple way to select a point on this hair and move it with the base tools from Cinema 4D. So using the points link field here is going to allow us to do that. To begin, you'll need to create an empty spline, and the easiest way to do that is just create a linear spline, click somewhere in your screen, and then hit delete. This is going to create the spline object in the object manager, and since we're in point mode when we create the point, as soon as we hit delete it just deletes the point and not the object. If I go to the hair object again and drag the spline into the points link, I can now go to my spline, and you'll see that all of the hairs, as well as all of the vertices that make up the hair, are transferred to the spline. So I can click on the spline using the Cinema 4D Move tool, for example, and now edit my hair. You'll see if I go back to the hair object and then to roots and change the number of segments, that's also going to change the number of points that I see on my spline object. So really, it's just creating a one-to-one representation of the guides, but in a spline object. The next parameter that we have is edit vertex, and this is going to work in conjunction with the hair mode that you can select here. So by default, you're going to be working with tips, which means you'll be able to access the last point on any given guide. If you work with vertices, what you are able to do is switch the vertice that you're going to be working with along the guide. So if I was to go into the simulation and then go to the hair tools and choose something like the brush, if I brush, you'll see that it is moving the hairs from the point that has been selected. Switching the edit vertex point allows me to switch which point is going to be edited there. The edit vertex number is going to be related to the segment number that you have in the roots option. So if I go beyond the number of segments, say value of 83 here, all I get is the last vertex on the tip of the guide. It's not until I get into a number that actually matches the segments where I start seeing differences. The reroot button is going to allow us to attach hairs back to geometry once they have become unrooted. This button here is more or less like using the new map method in the roots. So it's going to try to maintain the styling that we have, but it is also going to regrow every guide. Just to demonstrate, you see that we have the map set to unroot. We'll go to the pelt and select a set of points here. And if we delete these, you'll see that the hairs are left floating in space, so they're unrooted. They have that green circle there. So we have these hairs floating in space, just like that. And if we choose the pelt and select all the points, we can try moving these up or down, and you'll see that the unrooted hairs don't follow the mesh at all. Now if we do this in the model tool, they do follow just fine, so you do have to kind of consider how you're working with everything when you are moving with these different tools. Now just to show what the reroot button does, we're going to rebuild some geometry in the center here. So we'll go to the pelt, choose the edge tool, and select this edge here, and this edge along here. Maybe just get rid of those two edges there. We'll go to Stitch and Sew, hold down Shift, and bridge the gap, just like that. Now if we go back to the point tool, all points are still selected, and we can move this down again, and you'll see that, once again, my unrooted hairs do not follow the mesh. Now if I go back to the hair tool, I can click on Reroot, and you'll see that it tries to maintain my styling, and the hairs that were sitting off the edge there are just dropped off into the nether regions of 3D. and everything else is rerouted, so it is attached to the mesh. If we go to the pelt, you'll see all the points are highlighted again. I can move this up and down, and now my guides follow as expected. So if you're doing a lot of heavy mesh editing while you have created a hairstyle, the reroute button may save you a lot of time. And also if you're trying to transfer hairstyles from character to character, this is something that may also help. The next button that we have is regrow. Now, you have seen me use regrow quite a few times, and what it's going to do is it's going to use whatever options you have set in here, and it's simply going to regrow your hairstyle. You're going to lose all of your styling, and it's pretty much if you want to start over, you regrow the hair. Now I'm going to undo and show you store. So what store allows you to do is take a current state of your guides and store those. You'll see that you get a little memory indicator showing how much memory is being used to store that. And if we go into simulation, hair tools, and let's just choose the brush. So I'm going to brush the hair, and if I click on restore, it goes back to the stored state. So this allows you to easily experiment, and you can always go back quickly. And it's also nice because you can make quite a few changes without having to, say, go through Control-Z or Command-Z a whole bunch of times to get back to your stored state. You just click on Restore. If you click on Clear, it's just going to clear whatever was stored in memory.